They found her shoes still under the bed, clean, untouched, like she just floated out of them. I was the one who saw it first, and I should have kept my mouth shut. But something about it felt wrong, not just because it was gone, but because no one seemed surprised. The matron looked once, nodded, and told me to go scrub the stair rail. I never saw it again, and I never forgot those shoes. That's the sort of place Greystone was. Not loud, not cruel, at least not in the way you'd expect. It was quiet. Rotten things hid in the silence. The kind that made you itch without knowing where to scratch. They brought me there when I was 7. Mama had coughed herself empty, and Papa went away soon after. Where? No one told me. I remember the wagon ride. What air? Smoke from chimneys. A rope in my stomach that wouldn't stop tightening. Greystone sat behind a black iron gate that always looked like it was about to close, even when it stood open. The building was too tall, its windows too narrow, and the way it leaned into the hill made it feel like it had weight beyond stone, like it carried secrets in its bricks. They took my name and gave me a number, 34. I didn't cry. I just blinked and blinked, trying to understand the new rules. One girl had a doll. I asked where she got it, and she looked at me like I'd asked something dangerous. Later, I saw her hiding it inside a loose floorboard. The matron never shouted. That was worse. She had this way of just appearing in the corner of a doorway or behind a stair rail. You'd be mid-sentence, mid-breath, and there she was, folding her hands like you'd already disappointed her. The first night, I couldn't sleep. There were 12 beds in my room, all of them full, but it felt empty. No one whispered. No one even turned. Just the slow, even breathing of girls who had learned not to move too much. I stared at the ceiling for hours. Wooden beams, dust patterns, a crack that looked like a hand with 3 fingers. And then I heard it. A scratching sound. Not loud, but not mice either. Something slower. Purposeful. It came from beneath the floorboards. I sat up. Looked around. No one else stirred. I told myself it was the wind. But the wind doesn't tap in patterns. By morning, I convinced myself I'd imagined it. Until I saw the chalk marks by my bed. 3 white lines, slanted and quick, drawn on the edge of the wooden frame. I tried to rub them off, but they'd sunk into the grain. Later that day, matron called me to the office. It wasn't an office. It was a cold room with a desk, 1 candle, and a bell with a crack in it. She told me I was to take and spot at laundry duty. I didn't ask why Anne wasn't coming back. She said, "Some children leave early. You should hope to be so fortunate." I nodded. Then she handed me a small bundle. Anne's apron. Still damp. That afternoon, I went to the laundry cellars. Stone floors. Walls wet with green in the corners. The air tasted like iron and soap and something else, something like rotted fruit. There was a girl down there. Big eyes, pale skin, freckles like candle ash. "Don't hang it near the back wall," she said before I could ask. "That's where the smell comes from." "What smell?" She didn't answer. Just kept wringing cloth like her arms were made of rope. After that, I stopped asking questions. At Greystone, questions made things happen. Like the boy who asked where the matron went at night. The next morning, he wasn't at breakfast. We didn't speak of him again. The marks started showing up more. Chalk lines near my bed. Then inside my shoes. One morning, 3 tiny dots appeared on my pillow, dried, rust-colored, perfectly round. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I watched the girl in the bed beside me. She whispered in her sleep. Not words. Sounds. Hollow, like wind through a pipe. Her eyes were open. Just a sliver. I wanted to shake her, but I didn't move. By morning, she was gone. Shoes still neatly placed under her bed. The others said nothing. The matron said nothing. They gave her bed to another girl before sunset. That evening, I waited for the scratching again. It didn't come from the floor. It came from inside the walls. Not scratching. Tapping. 5 slow taps. Then silence. Then 4. That's when I started keeping count. The numbers changed every night. 5 taps. 4. 2. Then 7. I didn't know what it meant, but it felt like a countdown. I started writing them in the corner of my apron with a sliver of soap. On the 7th night, I heard a new sound. Breathing. Not near me. Above me. The ceiling. Shallow, hoarse breathing, like someone gasping through cloth. I looked up. The crack in the ceiling, the one shaped like a hand, had split wider. It pulsed. I stared until morning. The next day, matron pulled me aside. "Are you having trouble sleeping?" I shook my head. She smiled. It wasn't kind. "You should keep your mind quiet." 34. Not everything needs to be noticed. After that, the other children stopped sitting beside me. No one said why. They just shifted, like I carried a smell or a question. Only the freckled girl from the laundry looked at me once, and her lips moved silently. Leave if you can. But where would I go? We weren't allowed past the hedges. The gate was locked, and the village was miles away. Some nights, I thought I heard voices from the garden. Not words. Just humming. Low. Droning. Half melody. The next morning, the garden was filled with feathers. White. Some smeared with soot. The matron said it was birds nesting in the chimney. But there was no chimney in the garden, and the feathers were warm. I stopped writing numbers on my apron after that. Because the numbers had stopped, the tapping never came again. Only the breathing, and a new sound. Knocking. From beneath my bed. One tap. Every night. At the same time. One. Just one. I didn't look under. I never looked under. Not until the night it stopped. And when it did, the chalk marks were back. Not 3 lines, but 2. Side by side. Like ice. Drawn in ash. Smudged at the corners. That night, I dreamed I was in the hallway. Barefoot. The doors were all open, but the rooms were empty. And matron stood at the end of the corridor, facing the wall. Her hands were red, and her shadow moved the wrong way. I woke with my hands clenched so tight my nails had cut my palms. And there was something in my hand. A feather. Still warm. I didn't tell anyone about the feather. I just held it under my blanket until it cooled, turned stiff, and started to crack at the edges. Then I slipped it between the floorboards near my bed, where, and once kept her soap. The tapping didn't come back, but the silence it left behind was worse. You learn to measure danger by what you hear. And when it's too quiet at Greystone, something's watching. Waiting. Shifting beneath the skin of the building like breath held too long. They made me help in the kitchen next. The cook didn't talk, except to hiss when I dropped a spoon or stepped too loud. She had a long scar along her jaw and moved like her bones hurt. But I think she liked me, in her way. She gave me the heel of the bread sometimes. Still warm. One morning, I reached for the flour and found a scrap of fabric buried inside it. Black, with stitching, someone's name, half faded. And I didn't say a word. I just folded it and put it in my apron. The next day, matron called me again. She said a visitor was coming. An inspector. That I was to stand in the corridor and smile if asked questions. That I was to say I slept well. That I ate daily. That the girls played together in the garden. I nodded. She handed me a comb. There was still someone else's hair tangled in the teeth. When the inspector arrived, he smelled like books and bad shoes. His coat was too short for his arms. He smiled at me with dry lips. "Do you like it here, child?" he asked. I blinked, then nodded. He moved on. That night, they gave us meat with dinner. Real meat. Greasy and rich and red at the edges. The girls ate in silence, chewing slow, like they didn't believe it. One girl cried while eating. Not because she was sad, but because it tasted good. She cried from the shock of it. And the next morning, she was gone. Her shoes weren't under the bed. Just a puddle of water. And a single slice of bread. Untouched. The matron said nothing. But the cook didn't meet my eyes for a week. After that, I started hiding food. Little things. Hard crusts. Bits of carrot. I stored them in a loose crack behind the stove. I don't know why. Some part of me believed I'd need it. That I wouldn't stay. That I shouldn't. Then the freckled girl disappeared. The one from the laundry. I found her apron behind the water barrel. Stained with something brown and sticky. Not blood. Something thicker. And the wall behind it bulged slightly. Like something pushed from the other side. I never told. Not because I was brave. Because there was no one left to tell. After that, matron started praying louder. Not real prayers. Just words. Long and low and mumbled through the halls at night. Her voice didn't rise. But it echoed, somehow. It made the windows rattle. One night, I woke to her standing in our room. At the foot of our beds. Not speaking. Not moving. Just looking. Her hands were clasped. Her eyes almost closed. And her shadow stretched far too long behind her. No one else stirred. Just me. I kept my breath shallow and watched her lips move. They didn't form words I knew. In the morning, we weren't allowed outside. The garden had been dug up. All of it. The roses. The hedges. Even the ivy. Nothing remained but dirt and shovels. I asked one of the older girls what happened. She said roots were showing. And walked away. That night, the tapping returned. Only once. But it wasn't under my bed this time. It was inside the wall. Right beside my ear. I pressed my palm against it and felt a faint pulse. Slow, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. I stopped sleeping, started pretending instead. Matron noticed. She told me I'd been chosen. I didn't ask for what. I just nodded. That evening, she gave me new sheets. And a candle. Light it only when the moon is full, she said. It will guide what must be seen. The candle was black. I kept it under my bed. But the matches disappeared. The cook wouldn't look at me anymore. When I handed her the apron for washing, she pressed a small square of paper into my hand. Her fingers trembled. Later, in the cellar, I opened it. It read, "Beneath the floor, past the wall, where the stone hums. Run." That night, I waited until the halls fell silent. Then I crept to the laundry room, found the loose board behind the basin, pulled it free. A crawl space, barely wide enough, but the air inside, cold, wet, and humming, just like the note said. I climbed in, crawled for what felt like hours. The stone pulsed under my palms. Far ahead, a faint light. I reached it, a crack in the wall, just wide enough to peer through. I looked, and I saw, not a room, not a tunnel, but a hole. And inside, rows of shoes. Dozens, lined up like dolls. Some still had socks tucked inside. Above them, strings hung from the ceiling. Little slips of paper, all with numbers. Mine was there, 34. I backed away, hit something, turned. Matron, crouched, smiling. "You found it," she whispered. Her breath smelled like iron and rose water. She reached for me, but I ran. I don't remember how I got back to my room. I locked the door, shoved my bed against it, sat with my back to the wall until morning. By light, everything looked the same, but the garden was blooming again. Too fast, too bright. The ivy had returned, and the roses, they were the color of blood. That morning, a visitor arrived. Not an inspector, a woman. She looked at me, really looked, then asked for my name. Not my number, my name. "Mary," I said. She nodded, and took my hand. No one stopped her. Not the cook, not the matron, not the others. We walked out together, through the open gate, down the road, and I never looked back. But even now, some nights, when the wind hits the glass just right, I still hear the tapping, just once, by my pillow, and I wonder, did I ever leave it all?